weren't enough tests to do everything we might want to do, so you had to use the tests you had for the highest value impact they would have. And that was testing people who either had symptoms already or who were on the front line in our hospitals. If you'd used those tests for people who didn't have any symptoms at all, you would have had to displace the tests from people whose needs were greater. That's the point I was making yesterday.
Okay, do you accept value? Just the word value might have upset some people in that they may have taken that to mean the value of the people being tested rather than the value of doing that test.
Well, I was talking about the value of the tests. You do a lot of talking in this job, very often in an unscripted way, and sometimes words are used that other people can interpret differently. I was very clear. I was talking about where do these tests have the greatest value, and that's the decision we were making.
Wales v Scotland, the match that was actually called off 4 years ago yesterday. Now, the Welsh Government didn't call it off, but the day before at a COBRA meeting, you had been calling for a ban on mass gatherings, and there'd been evidence that that could reduce deaths by 2%. Public Health Wales had also said that they thought this game should be called off. It wasn't right, was it, that you left that decision to the Welsh Rugby Union, an organisation that doesn't have the expertise really to make that decision?
Well, to be clear, in law, only the Welsh Rugby Union could make the decision. The Welsh Government had no powers to intervene and make a decision over the heads of the union. We could have been clearer in our advice. My position was the game shouldn't go ahead, but that wasn't the clinical advice at the time. The clinical advice was there was greater risk from cancelling than letting it go ahead, and I wasn't able to persuade the Prime Minister at that COBRA meeting that on a four-nation basis we all should say that mass gatherings shouldn't happen. I was keen on that for the messaging point of view. I thought we were being inconsistent in saying to people, stay at home if you've got any symptoms, but it's okay to go to the rugby.
What sort of handover do you think you're giving your successor, who will be appointed next week? Farmers protesting, doctors on strike, 500,000 people on NHS waiting lists, disquiet over aspects of Senedd reform, closed lists and the lack of a recall mechanism, tight budgets. I don't really want to get into the who might be to blame for that, but it is on your watch. That's not the most appetising of handovers, is it, for whoever? There's a lot on their plate to deal with.
Anybody taking office after 14 years of austerity and at the tail end of a government that is more or less in collapse in front of us every day is going to be in turbulent times.
It's you would make the decisions for Wales. Whatever happens in Westminster, it's you that will make the decisions for Wales, and you that are handing over those problems to the person who will follow you.
We make decisions in Wales within the limits of the powers that we have and the funding that we get to discharge them. And that's been a very difficult equation, and an increasingly difficult equation as year after year investment in public services across the whole of the United Kingdom has been squeezed down. My successor, of course, will face challenges. I hope, as you'd expect me to say, that by the end of this year we will have a different government at Westminster, that Labour in Wales will be able to work with the Labour government at the UK level. If you're lucky enough to do this job, you accumulate some political capital, you win an election, you become the First Minister. The point for me is to use it, and to use it to do the difficult things, the challenging things, not the easy things or the comfortable things.
The Welsh Labour leadership campaign, latterly, has been dominated by one issue. Would you have accepted £200,000 from that particular source that Mr Gething did?
Well, my election was, I think, very different. I think altogether in my campaign we spent £25,000 on absolutely everything. So times have changed. It's not a decision for me to make. Members of the Labour Party and affiliated organisations will be voting. They're very lucky to have the choice.
That sounds like a no. You wouldn't have taken £200,000.
I'm not saying that. I'm simply saying that the question never arose for me when I was standing for the leadership of the Labour Party, and therefore I don't have a view.
There is disquiet amongst some of your Labour colleagues in the Senedd over this. In fact, some go further. Fury and anger are the words some have used. Do you think Mr Gething should hand that money back in order to quell that disquiet?
Absolutely not for me. I'm really not getting drawn into the leadership at all. I've been scrupulously neutral in it. The good news for all members of the Labour Party, whether they're Senedd members or people who work so hard in our constituencies, is that the choice is in their hands.
Would you miss being First Minister, or is it actually time to just... Are you happy with your decision, I guess, is what I'm getting at?
Well, there'll be things I'll miss, of course, because I haven't just been First Minister. I've had the hugely fortunate experience of being at the heart of Welsh Government from the year 2000 onwards, and of course there will be things about the job that I will miss. There will be parts of it I will not miss.
Oh, go on, what won't you miss out of interest?
Oh, well, I won't miss interviews. I won't miss First Minister's questions. When I look back over my whole career, the job I enjoyed the most, and personally think I was most suited to, was being Rodri Morgan's special advisor, because I think I'm more suited to behind the scenes than front of stage stuff. I won't miss the front of stage stuff. I will miss some of the chances you get to be involved in debates about policy, making choices, how can we solve that problem, how can we do that better in the future. To be the heart of all of that, I will miss. Having to come and do this sort of thing and other front of stage stuff, I won't miss that at all.
First Minister, thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure. Thank you.